The rain had started in the morning, soft and gentle at first, like a whisper across the alien sky. But by afternoon it had turned into a roar, heavy drops falling from the dark clouds and striking the ground like arrows. The village of Yalrin, small and fragile, was drowning under the sudden storm. Houses made of clay and wood shook with every crash of thunder. Streams of water raced through the narrow streets, carrying broken tools, scraps of food, and even small animals that had been caught unaware. The villagers shouted to each other, some trying to save their homes, others rushing to higher ground. Fear spread quickly because no one remembered the last time the river had risen so fast. In the chaos, a small alien girl struggled to run. She was thin, her body weak, her clothes torn by the wind. Her eyes were wide with terror as she stumbled through the water that reached her knees, then her waist, then her chest. She pushed forward, coughing as the muddy flood tried to pull her down. Her cloak, old and patched, slipped from her shoulders. A strong wave caught it, dragging it away into the raging current. She cried out, trying to grab it, but it was gone, leaving her drenched and exposed. The cold rain plastered her hair against her face. Her skin glistened with water, and her small form looked even more fragile in the storm. The villagers saw her, but no one moved to help. Some whispered, "It's the cursed one. Let the flood take her." Others turned their backs, fearing bad luck if they touched her. The girl's lips trembled, but she kept moving as if she had long ago learned not to expect kindness. At the edge of the village, another figure appeared. A human traveler, tall and broad-shouldered, was making his way through the storm. He had come to Yalrin seeking shelter, but what he found instead was chaos and fear. His boots splashed through the water as he tried to understand the scene before him, and then he saw her. The girl staggered forward, her body shaking. Her hands reached for a broken wall, but the water surged again, dragging her down. She gasped, her head slipping beneath the surface for a terrifying moment. The human's heart raced. Without thinking, he moved. "Hold on," he shouted, his voice barely heard over the storm. He pushed against the rushing water, each step heavy as if chains were tied to his legs. His arms fought the current until he reached her. She coughed and struggled, weak against the pull of the flood. With one strong motion, he grabbed her arm and pulled her close. She clung to him, her nails digging into his sleeve. Her eyes met his, wide and filled with shock. For the first time, she looked not at the water, not at the villagers who had abandoned her, but at him, this human stranger, who had no reason to care. The villagers shouted again from the distance, "Leave her, she will bring you ruin." But he ignored them. The girl's voice was faint, trembling. "Why? Why would a human save me?" He had no answer. Not yet. All he knew was that he couldn't watch her drown. He lifted her into his arms, holding her tightly as the storm raged on. Behind them, the water grew higher, houses collapsed, cries of fear filled the air. The river was not finished yet, and the night promised even worse. But in that single moment, as the human carried the alien girl through the rising waters, a new story had begun, and though neither of them could see it, the flood was only the beginning. The storm grew worse as the night deepened. The sky cracked with lightning, and thunder rolled like the roar of a beast across the valley. The human tightened his grip on the alien girl as he pushed through the flooded streets. His muscles burned, his boots sank in the rushing current, yet he refused to let her slip from his arms. The villagers stood on rooftops and higher ground, watching him with wide eyes. Some shouted warnings, "She will curse you, leave her, human." Others laughed bitterly, believing he would drown because of the girl. No one offered help, no one even threw a rope. Their fear of her was stronger than their pity. The girl's small hands clutched his soaked jacket. Her lips were pale, her teeth chattered. She whispered through her trembling breath, "You should not carry me. They will hate you too." He looked down at her, his jaw firm. "Let them hate me, I will not drop you." His words were rough, but steady. A promise that struck her deeper than the storm. A large wave surged suddenly, crashing against a broken wall. The water rushed toward them with a force that could sweep away horses. The human braced himself, turning his body to shield the girl. The wave slammed into his back, nearly driving him to his knees. For a moment he thought both of them would be lost, but his arms refused to loosen. His will burned hotter than the cold water. He staggered forward step by step until he reached a tall stone near the edge of the village. With great effort, he climbed onto it, placing the girl down first. She gasped for air, clinging to his sleeve as if afraid he would vanish. The villagers still watched, silent now, their faces unreadable in the storm. A few shook their heads, whispering that the human was doomed. The girl closed her eyes, trying to find warmth in the jacket he had given her. She felt his hand still resting on her shoulder, steady, firm, not letting her go. For the first time in her life, she was not. Being pushed away, the human glanced at the villagers and raised his voice. "You call her cursed, but she is just a child drowning in your flood. What curse is there in saving a life?" No one answered. They turned away, unwilling to meet his eyes. The girl whispered again, her voice weak. "They will never accept me. If you keep me, you will be cast out too." The human looked at her shivering frame, her drenched hair sticking to her face, her eyes filled with a strange mix of fear and hope. He spoke softly this time, so only she could hear. "I do not care about them. I care about you." Her breath caught. She had never heard such words. Not from her people, not from anyone. The rain pounded down harder. The human knew they couldn't stay exposed. He looked around for shelter. Finally, he spotted an old barn at the far end of the village, its roof half broken but still standing. "Hold on to me," he told her. He lifted her once again, ignoring the ache in his arms, and moved toward the barn. The water resisted, but he pushed through. The barn's door was swollen with rain. He kicked it open and stepped inside. The air was damp but calmer. The ground was muddy, but at least they were out of the direct storm. He set her down gently on a pile of straw. She shivered violently. Wrapping his jacket tighter around her body, he knelt beside her, his face serious. "You're safe now," he said. But the girl shook her head. "No one with me is ever safe." Outside, a strange sound echoed through the rain. It was not thunder this time, but a low growl, deep and unnatural. The girl's eyes widened in terror. She pressed closer to him, whispering in panic, "It's coming." The flood was not the only danger. The human frowned, listening closely. The growl grew louder, mixed with the crash of water. Something massive was moving out there. Something alive. He placed a steadying hand on her shoulder. "Whatever it is, I will face it. You're not alone anymore." She stared at him, her heart racing, her fear mixing with something new, a spark of belief. And outside, in the drowning night, the true danger began to rise. The barn smelled of wet wood and old hay. The walls creaked under the force of the wind outside, yet it was still better than the raging waters. The human pushed a broken crate closer to the straw, trying to make a small seat for the alien girl. She was trembling, her skin pale, her hair dripping water onto the ground. He knelt down and pulled his jacket tighter around her small body. "You'll be warm soon," he said. His voice was rough but gentle. The girl lowered her eyes, as if unused to kindness. For a while, the only sound was the pounding rain on the roof and her shaky breaths. Then she whispered, "You should not be here with me. They will hate you, like they hate me." The human tilted his head, studying her. "Why? What have you done to them?" Her fingers touched the skin near her shoulder, pulling the jacket aside just enough to reveal a faint glowing mark. It pulsed softly, like light trapped beneath her flesh. "This," she said quietly. "They call it the curse mark. They believe it brings storms, death, and ruin. They left me to the flood because of it." The human stared at the mark. The glow was strange, almost beautiful, not frightening. He shook his head. "That's no curse, that's just you." Her eyes widened, as if his words were something she had never expected to hear. Her lips trembled. "All my life they have called me cursed. When food was short, I was the first left out. When sickness came, they blamed me. When the river rose, they said it was because of me." Her voice broke. "I thought I would die tonight, and no one would care. The human placed his hand firmly over hers, steady and strong. I cared. That is why I pulled you out, and I will not let them decide your worth. For the first time, her tears mixed not only with the rain, but with relief. She pressed her face into his jacket, her body shaking as she whispered, "Why are you different?" He had no answer. He only knew he could not leave her. Suddenly, the low growl outside came again, louder this time. The human rose to his feet, his eyes narrowing. He moved to the broken doorway and peered out into the storm. Lightning flashed, and in that brief light he saw something in the water, a shape moving against the current, massive and dark. The girl's voice trembled behind him. "It follows the mark, the beast of the flood. They say it comes whenever the cursed one lives." He turned to her sharply. "Do you mean it came for you?" Her hands gripped the straw, her knuckles white. "Yes, it hunts me. The elders always said it would appear one day. That is why they wanted me gone before it awoke." The human clenched his fists. He had carried her this far. He would not let a beast take her now. "Then let it come," he said in a low voice. "It will find I am not so easy to drown." But she shook her head fiercely. "You do not understand. No one fights it and lives. It cannot be killed." He stepped closer, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder again. "Then we will survive. Somehow. You are not alone anymore." The girl stared at him, torn between fear and something new. Trust. She had been told all her life that she was nothing but a curse. Yet this stranger, this human, looked at her as if she was worth protecting. Another roar echoed outside. The barn doors rattled against the force. The girl buried her face in her hands. "It is here," she whispered. "It knows I am still alive." The human looked at the shivering roof, the broken wood, and the glowing mark on her skin. He knew the night was not yet over. The storm had given birth to something far worse than rain. He crouched beside her once more, his voice steady. "Listen to me. We will face it together, and when this storm ends, you will still be standing, you hear me?" Her wide eyes lifted to his, filled with terror but also the faintest spark of belief. She nodded slowly, her voice breaking. "Together." Outside, the water beast stirred, its massive form rising higher with each crash of thunder. The storm had not chosen its victim by accident. The cursed girl and the human were its prey. But in that fragile barn, with straw beneath their feet and fear thick in the air, a bond had begun to form. A bond that the storm itself would soon be forced to test. The growl shook the barn like thunder rolling through wood and bone. The human stood at the doorway, his body tense, eyes locked on the swirling black water outside. The storm was fierce, yet what moved in that flood was fiercer still. A shadow twisted beneath the waves, larger than any animal he had ever seen. The alien girl crouched low in the straw, her hands pressed against her glowing mark. Her lips moved as if she was praying, though her voice was too soft to hear. The glow pulsed faster now, answering the roar outside. The human glanced at her. "What is it? Tell me." Her wide eyes lifted to his, trembling. "It is the flood beast born of the storms. They say it comes when the cursed child refuses to die. It hunts me, always me." Another flash of lightning split the sky, and for a heartbeat, the creature's form was visible. Scaled skin glistening wet, eyes burning like lanterns under the water. Its massive body surged forward, waves rising in its wake. The barn shook again, its doors rattling violently. The girl cried out, "It knows where I am, I cannot escape." The human's jaw tightened. He grabbed a broken beam of wood from the barn floor and gripped it like a weapon. "If it wants you, it will have to get through me first." Her eyes widened in shock. "No, you cannot fight it. No blade, no fire can kill it. That is why they feared me, because the beast is bound to me and nothing can stop it." He turned to her, his voice steady even as the roof above groaned. "Maybe nothing has tried hard enough. Maybe you were never meant to face it alone." Her heart pounded. His words struck her deeper than any knife. For so long she had believed her fate was only fear and running. Yet this human spoke as if fate itself could be challenged. The water outside surged higher, crashing into the barn's side. Wood splintered. The air filled with the stench of damp scales. And then the beast rose, its massive head breaking through the surface, teeth jagged like shards of stone, water pouring from its jaws. The girl screamed, her glowing mark burning brighter. The beast roared in answer, drawn to her light. The human didn't hesitate. He shoved the girl back into the corner of the barn and stepped forward. Beam raised, his heart thundered, yet his grip was unshakable. The beast lunged, crashing against the barn doors. Splinters flew. The roof shook. The girl sobbed. "It will kill you. It always kills." But the human only shouted back, his voice cutting through the storm. "Not tonight." The creature smashed its massive claw against the door, half breaking it. The human struck with his beam, the wood snapping against the beast's hide. It howled, the sound shaking the ground itself. Though the blow had barely scratched it, the beast paused, its eyes fixed on him. A human who dared to stand against its fury. The girl clutched her mark, tears in her eyes. "It is bound to me, not to you. But you do not fear it." Her voice cracked as she whispered, Maybe the curse can be broken." The beast reared back, waves crashing into the barn. The human held his ground, every muscle ready. His eyes darted back to the girl. "Tell me what it wants. Tell me how to stop it." Her voice shook. "It wants my life. But there is another way. I can sing the old words. They say the beast will obey the cursed one, if she dares to command it." He stepped closer, his voice firm. "Then do it. I'll protect you." Her body trembled, her throat tight with fear. Yet his presence gave her strength she had never known. Slowly she stood, her glowing mark blazing. The storm seemed to bend toward her as she raised her voice. A soft sound at first, a song in her alien tongue. The words wove through the air like threads of light. The beast snarled, thrashing, but its roar faltered, its glowing eyes fixed on her, no longer just hunger but recognition. The human stayed beside her, beam ready, yet he watched in awe. The girl's song rose higher, the glow from her mark spreading across her skin. Her small frame no longer looked cursed but radiant. The beast let out one last roar, shaking the barn to its core, then lowered its massive head. The waters calmed, slightly, its rage bending under her voice. The girl's song broke suddenly, her knees giving way. She would have fallen if the human had not caught her in his arms. She gasped, weak but alive. It listened. The human's heart raced. He held her close, whispering, "Then maybe this curse of yours is the very thing that will save us." Outside, the beast waited, half tamed, half wild. The storm still raged, but the night had changed. For the first time, the cursed girl was not only feared, she was powerful. And the human knew this was only the beginning of a battle larger than either of them had imagined. The barn was shaking like a fragile shell in the storm. The beast outside circled slowly, its glowing eyes fixed on the girl. The water hissed around its body, each movement sending waves crashing against the broken walls. Inside, the human held the girl steady, his arm wrapped protectively around her shoulders. She was weak from singing, her chest rising and falling with sharp breaths. Her mark still glowed faintly, but the brightness was fading. She whispered, "I cannot do it again. My voice is gone. It will return soon, and I will not stop it." The human looked down at her trembling frame. His jaw was tight, but his voice remained calm. "Then I will stand in its path. Even if I fall, it will not take you." Her eyes filled with tears. "Why would you fight for me? You do not even know me." He met her gaze, steady as stone. "I know enough. I know you did not deserve their hatred. I know you saved them when you calmed that monster. And I know you are worth saving." Her breath caught. The words struck her deeper than any storm. For the first time in her life, someone saw her as more than a curse. But outside, voices began to rise. The villagers had come, drawn by the noise. They climbed onto higher ground, staring in disbelief at the beast circling the barn. Some shouted, in fear, "The cursed girl has awakened the demon." Others raised sticks and stones. "End her now before it destroys us all." The girl pressed closer to the human, her body shaking. "They will kill me. They have always wanted this chance." The human stepped forward, placing himself between her and the broken barn doors. His voice thundered back at the crowd. She held the beast, not you. She calmed it when none of you dared. Without her, you would already be dead. But the villagers only roared louder. Their fear had turned to anger. The sight of the human protecting her only deepened their hatred. The Iwa girl's voice cracked. You should leave me. If I die, the beast will vanish. You can be safe. The human turned sharply, his eyes blazing. No, do not ask me to abandon you. I did not fight the river or face this beast just to throw you away now. His words were fire in the cold storm. The girl's tears spilled, not from fear this time, but from something warmer. The beast suddenly reared, its roar shaking the earth. It slammed its massive claw into the barn, tearing away wood. The villagers screamed. Some ran, others picked up weapons. The night was chaos once again. The girl cried out, clutching her glowing mark. It wants me. If I step outside, it will leave the rest. Let me go. The human grabbed her arm firmly. No, together, remember? You said it yourself. Her eyes met his, the memory of her own whispered promise sparking inside her. Together. The barn shook again. Water surged through the broken doors. The beast's head pushed inside, its teeth glistening in the lightning. The villagers screamed louder, some throwing stones that bounced harmlessly off its scales. The human raised his broken beam like a spear, standing tall. He shouted at the villagers, Look, she is not your curse. She is your only hope. She can command it. She can end this. The girl shook her head, fear overwhelming her. I cannot. My strength is gone. The human knelt beside her, his hand gripping hers. His voice dropped low, steady. You can. You are stronger than you believe. I will not let you fall, not while I stand. Something in his tone reached her. His belief was like a spark in the dark. Her breathing steadied. Her mark pulsed brighter once more. She stood, slowly, her legs trembling. The villagers gasped. Some shouted in anger. Others fell silent in awe. The beast growled, water rising higher, drawn to her light. The girl lifted her voice again, broken and soft at first, but then stronger, carried by the human's presence beside her. The words of her alien song filled the barn. Glowing brighter with every note, the beast thrashed, but it stopped short of the human, its massive head lowering slightly. The villagers froze, watching in shock as the cursed child they had despised bent the terror of the storm with nothing but her voice. The human stood at her side, his hand on her shoulder, steady and proud. Together they faced the storm. Together they faced the beast. And as the song filled the night, the bond between them was no longer fragile. It was forged in flood and fear, tested in fire, and unbroken still. But the storm was not yet over. The beast was listening, yes, but its eyes burned with hunger. The girl's strength would not last forever, and the villagers, filled with fear and anger, were beginning to move closer. The night had only just begun, and their bond would face its hardest trial yet. The storm did not rest. The sky split again with lightning, painting the night white. The beast roared and water crashed against the barn walls. The villagers stood outside in fear and fury, their shouts mixing with the thunder. The human stood firm, his broken beam gripped in one hand, the other steady on the girl's shoulder. She was still singing, her voice trembling but strong. Her glowing mark pulsed brighter, calming the monster bit by bit. The water beast shook its massive head, its claws tearing the ground, yet it did not strike. The villagers were restless. Some screamed, "Kill her before the beast obeys her completely." Others whispered in awe, "She holds it back. She controls it." The human raised his voice louder than the storm. "Open your eyes. Without her, you would be dead already. The river would have swallowed you whole, and this beast would have torn your homes apart. She is not your curse. She is your shield. But fear is stubborn. Fear does not listen." One villager hurled a stone. It struck the girl's arm, breaking her voice for a moment. The beast instantly roared, surging forward. The barn shook violently, wood splintering. The girl cried out, stumbling back. Her mark flickered like a dying flame. The human caught her, before she fell, his arm strong around her. His eyes blazed with fury as he shouted at the villagers, "Enough! If you hurt her again, you doom us all." Yet some of them advanced with spears and sticks, their faces twisted in terror. They believed destroying her would save them. The human stepped in front of her, spreading his arms wide. "You want her? You go through me first." His voice was iron, his stance unshakable. The villagers hesitated. For the first time, they saw not just a traveler, but a warrior, a man who would fight the storm itself. The girl pressed her forehead against his back, whispering weakly, "Leave me, please. If I die, everything ends." He looked over his shoulder at her, his face set. "No, if you die, then everything truly ends. You are not the end, you are the beginning." Her chest tightened at his words. Her eyes burned with tears, but her trembling voice returned. She began to sing again, louder this time. The glow returned to her mark, brighter than before. The beast froze. Its massive body shuddered as the song wrapped around it like chains of light. The villagers gasped. Some dropped their weapons, falling to their knees. The flood raged on, water pushing harder against the barn. But the girl's song rose above it. Each note steadied the storm. Each breath pushed the monster back. The human held her steady, his arm strong around her waist. He whispered, "That's it. You are stronger than the storm, stronger than their fear." Her song wavered as exhaustion pressed on her. She swayed, but his strength kept her standing. Their voices, hers in song, his in steady encouragement, rose together against the night. The beast lowered its head, its burning eyes softening. It let out a low rumble. No longer rage, but submission. The floodwaters slowed slightly as though obeying the will of the girl. But just as hope flickered, one villager screamed in madness, "Witch! She is enslaving the demon!" He lunged forward with a spear, aiming straight for her heart. The human reacted like lightning. He caught the shaft with his bare hands, twisting it aside. He shoved the man back into the mud. His voice thundered, "She is saving you, and you spit on her gift? You are blind with fear." The villagers fell silent, their courage broken. The girl leaned weakly into him, whispering, "You protect me, even from them." He looked at her, his voice softer now. "Always." The storm outside began to ease. The clouds still rumbled, but the rain grew lighter. The beast sank deeper into the water, still watching the girl as if awaiting her command. Her song slowed, her strength fading. She collapsed against the human's chest. He caught her, lifting her gently. His heart pounded, but his eyes were steady. The villagers stared at the sight. The cursed girl glowing softly in the arms of a human who refused to abandon her. Some wept, ashamed. Others bowed their heads in silence. The beast let out one final rumble, then turned away, slipping back. Into the flood, the waters began to settle. As if the storm itself had heard the girl's voice and grown weary, the human looked down at her fragile face, her closed eyes, and whispered, "You did it. You faced them all. The flood, the beast, even their hate. And you are still here." She stirred weakly, whispering, "Because you never let me fall." He held her tighter, stepping out of the broken barn into the fading storm. The night had nearly broken them, but together they had endured, and though the flood was passing, both knew the greatest test still waited with the dawn. The storm had finally weakened. The heavy rain turned into a soft drizzle. The night sky, once black with rage, began to break open, showing faint silver light through the clouds. The floodwaters were still high, but they no longer surged with the fury of before. The beast had vanished into the depths, leaving behind silence broken only by the dripping of water. The human walked slowly through the mud, the alien girl resting weakly in his arms. Her head leaned against his chest, her breath shallow but steady. Her glowing mark had dimmed now, yet a faint shimmer still lingered like a reminder of the power she carried. The villagers gathered at a distance, silent and shaken. Their faces were pale, their clothes drenched. They had seen too much in one night, storms, beasts, and the courage of one girl they had called cursed. The human stopped in the middle of the broken village, his boots sinking into the soft ground. He raised his head and looked at the people who had abandoned her. His voice cut through the silence. She saved you, not once, but again and again. While you turned your backs, she faced the storm. While you cursed her, she calmed the beast. You owe her your lives. The villagers lowered their heads. Some could not meet his eyes. Shame pressed heavy on them. A child whispered to her mother, "She is not cursed. She is shining." The alien girl stirred, her eyes opening slowly. She blinked at the villagers, her lips parting as if expecting more hatred. But what she saw instead was confusion, fear, and maybe, just maybe, a hint of respect. She whispered, faintly, "They will never accept me. When the sun rises, they will cast me out again." The human shook his head firmly. "Then I will walk with you. If they turn their backs, we will turn ours too. You do not belong to their fear anymore." Her chest tightened, a strange warmth filling her heart. All her life she had been alone, but now his words tied her to something stronger than blood, stronger than fate. The oldest villager stepped forward, his voice trembling. "What are you, girl? What power do you carry?" She swallowed, her voice weak but steady. "I do not know. I only know I did not want to die, and I only sang because he believed I could." She glanced up at the human, her eyes shining with tears. Murmurs spread through the crowd. Some whispered she was dangerous, but others said she had saved them. For the first time, doubt in the old hatred began to grow. The human placed her gently on her feet, though he kept an arm around her to hold her steady. He spoke again, his voice like stone. "Cursed? No, she is the reason you live. She is not a burden. She is hope." The villagers shifted uneasily. Their fear had been strong for years, but tonight that fear had cracked. The girl's knees weakened, and she leaned against him, whispering, "Why, do you keep standing for me?" He looked down at her, his eyes steady. "Because someone needed to. Because you should never have carried this alone. And because you are more than you believe." Her tears fell freely, but they were not the tears of fear she once knew. They were the tears of someone who, for the first time, felt seen, felt chosen. The clouds parted, and dawn light spilled across the broken village. The floodwaters glistened gold under the morning sun. The storm was over, but the memory of the night would never be forgotten. The villagers, silent and humbled, began to walk away. Some bowed their heads toward the girl, not in hatred this time, but in quiet respect. They had no words yet, but the human's voice had planted something new in their hearts. The girl looked at him, her voice trembling. "I thought the flood was the end of me." He smiled faintly, pulling her closer. "No, the flood was only the beginning. Now our story truly starts." She breathed in the morning air, her heart lighter than it had ever been. The mark on her skin still glowed faintly, but now it felt less like a curse and more like a promise. Side by side they stood in the light of dawn, a human and an alien girl, no longer strangers, no longer alone. Their journey was far from over, but together they had survived the storm. Together they would face whatever came next. And as the sun climbed higher, she whispered softly, almost to herself, "I belong, at last."